A government-proposed tribunal may address some of the issues faced by people with disabilities. Significant improvements and changes coming to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. The Chief Medical Officer confirms environmental issues at the Winston Scott Polyclinic amid reports of a sick-out. And in sports, favourites Weymouth Wales knocked out of the Prime Minister's Cup by rivals Ellerton.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
Good evening, I'm Pearson Bowen. Government is proposing to establish a tribunal through which people with disabilities could have recourse regarding some of the issues they face. This is one of the essential measures included in the draft Rights of Persons with Disabilities Bill. Anesta Henry has that report.
People with disabilities facing discrimination amid other issues will be able to take their complaints to a tribunal. This will come about because provisions for the establishment of a tribunal have been included in the draft Rights of Persons with Disabilities Bill. National Disabilities Advocate Senator Andwele Boyce touched on the tribunal while explaining features of the draft bill during an education, sensitization and awareness building workshop.
So we have, as the Minister has indicated, a comprehensive piece of legislation, and one of the things that is going to be necessary is an enforcement body, right? Who do you take complaints to for breach of the law? Much in the same way that we have an employment rights tribunal, we have an NIS tribunal and that kind of a thing, the bill proposes to establish a tribunal that hears complaints under the bill. So if a person with a disability thinks that they are the victim of disability discrimination, they can take the complaint to the tribunal.
While the bill also establishes that people with disabilities have a right to access quality education, Senator Boyce says there are a set of obligations the Ministry of Education will have to adhere to. One of these obligations is the formation of a national education plan to meet the specific needs of people with disabilities.
There are many persons with disabilities who do not have consistent access to affordable quality education in Barbados. And I don't think that it is not something we say very often, and I don't think it is something that the vast majority of Barbadians recognize.
Mr. Boyce says the Advisory Committee for the establishment of a commission to champion improving the lives of persons with disabilities is engaging in ongoing conversations with insurance companies about opening their doors to members of the disabled community.
The problem we're trying to beat back is that many players in the insurance sector have been hesitant and flat out unwilling to insure persons with disabilities in various kinds, whether that's health or whether that's motor, or and we're having that conversation.
The bill is also asking for government and private sector buildings to be fully accessible to people with disabilities, as well as for financial institutions to make their services available to members of the community. Minister of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, Kirk Humphrey, says the Persons with Disabilities Bill will be laid in Parliament soon.
Hopefully debate this year or very early next year to be able to pass some things. And in that bill, it would look at issues pertaining to transportation, housing, health. It's an omnibus piece of legislation, which means that all the ministries of government are being tasked to do very specific things and to set in place in the law to give most people a 3-year period to be able to make the adjustments, to do these things so as to make life in Barbados fair.
Stakeholders who attended the workshop were able to give feedback on the provisions in the bill. Anesta Henry, CBC News.
Well, Barbadians can expect operational changes, more staff and improved conditions at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital over the next 18 months. This from Minister of Health and Wellness, Senator Dr. the Most Honourable Jerome Walcott, who adds that while staff has delivered sterling service, better can be done. He was speaking during a church service at the chapel of the QEH to mark its Diamond Jubilee. Rachel Agard was there and filed this report.
Members of staff at the island's major healthcare facility have been providing exceptional care for tens of thousands of Barbadians over the last 6 decades. And Minister of Health and Wellness, Senator Dr. the Most Honorable Jerome Walcott, is advising them not to be distracted by the criticism. He is also encouraging them to provide even better service.
I know for every case that spent a long time in A&E, dozens more would have been seen, treated, admitted, or discharged. For everyone whose operation is canceled, there are over 100 who get their surgery that same week. And indeed, for those who go to clinic and their records are not available, I am sure hundreds are seen in the outpatients department. So that is how it goes. We can do better in the hospital. That's the reality. We can do better, and we absolutely have to do better.
Chief Executive Officer for the QEH, Neil Clark, says there are a number of priorities on the list, and they have already started with the inclusion of 82 new Ghanaian nurses. Additionally, they're set to improve the institution's health information system and invest in new machinery and infrastructure as they focus on the future.
All of those things are coming together, and it feels like a great rush of things coming to us, and we've got to try and manage our way through that now. But it's going to be the next 12 months, 18 months is going to be a very exciting time at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, and I hope we'll see a lot of positive changes from all that investment.
Meanwhile, Pastor Paul Leacock, who delivered the homily, says there is a need for more public care facilities, as there will never be enough resources for all the people who get sick.
Surely we cry out and we keep praying for another or other facilities. Some of them are springing up everywhere, but we certainly need more public care facilities, and we are praying for it, hoping for it, but there will never be enough resources. That doesn't mean that we should not try. That doesn't mean that we should not build. That doesn't mean that we should not strive to make sure that we cater to people.
Health officials say Barbadians can now look forward to the improvements in the coming months. Rachel Agard, CBC News.
Prime Minister Mia Ammar Motley is among world leaders in Azerbaijan attending the 29th session of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or COP29. She was greeted at the Heydar Aliyev International Airport by Azerbaijan's Culture Minister Adil Karimli and other officials. That summit got underway today with a stark warning from COP29's President Mukhtar Babayev.
Colleagues, we are on the road to ruin. But these are not the future problems. Climate change is already here. From flooded homes in Spain to forest fires in Australia, from rising oceans in the Pacific to barren plains in East Africa. Whether you see them or not, people are suffering in the shadows. They are dying in the dark, and they need more than compassion, more than prayers and paperwork, and they're crying out for leadership and action.
COP29 discussions on the transition to clean energy are likely to be overshadowed by financial considerations. Developing nations are said to need $2.4 trillion annually for a shift away from fossil fuels and climate change mitigation. We'll take a break here, but coming up, environmental issues at the Winston Scott Polyclinic amid reports of a sick out. Chief Medical Officer Dr. the Most Honorable Kenneth George has confirmed reports of environmental issues at the Winston Scott Polyclinic amid reports of a sick out at the healthcare facility. He confirmed they have received reports of the ongoing issues, and he says health officials must be able to provide a care package that is consistent and not interruptive, but admits that sometimes some of the issues are out of their control.
There's a bad odor. Some people had respiratory symptoms. So as I said, I'm getting the information. There were 2 areas identified at Winston Scott, the immunization room and the public health room where pregnant women and babies are seen. Those two rooms are fully air conditioned, and I need to get some more information with respect to what are the issues.
Meanwhile, health officials are confident the Brantford Tate Polyclinic will reopen on Thursday. That Blackrock St. Michael Clinic was closed last Thursday following environmental issues. Dr. George says a number of the primary care plants are very old and from time to time will have environmental issues, whether it is mold, odors, or people falling ill. He says as a responsible ministry, plants must be safe for the staff who work there, and they're set to meet with staff on Wednesday.
And based on the Shaw Act, if there's an issue with respect to persons stating that they believe their workplace is unsafe, we must take that seriously. Brantford Tate hopefully will open on Thursday. We have done some environmental health work over the weekend. We are in receipt of 2 pieces of there was an environmental team, external environmental team who came and did some work. And but we are keeping our fingers crossed that the clinic will open on Thursday.
A University of the West Indies lecturer on political science is concerned about the impact of Donald Trump's second term as U.S. president on Caribbean societies. Dr. George Brathwaite made that point during CBC's The People's Business last night. He believes Mr. Trump will double down on his isolationist policies in support of his promise for mass deportations of illegal immigrants.
I wonder how many Caribbean people will be deported. And that is a matter of serious concern when, at the moment, there is fear across societies in the Caribbean, particularly in relation to gun violence, and we don't manufacture guns, in relation to persons who haven't lived and been raised in the American climate will be coming back to pass on their training to persons who down here seem to be inspired by what is American as opposed to what is indigenous or even gentile, according to Kamala Harris. So I see those as having some serious ramifications for the Caribbean.
The panelists also examined what they consider to be weaknesses in the Kamala Harris campaign. Dr. Brathwaite suggests the Democratic candidate failed to separate herself from the current Joe Biden administration.
When Kamala actually had that opportunity to at least give some space between her and Biden and still have that edge on Trump was in the ABS interview. Where they were asked what would she do different, and she couldn't think
nothing.
of one thing.
Yeah.
And it had to be, it was there and then that she had to say, well, I would depart different from him on the economy. Things have changed since he was in power, and I could foresee things being different in next year based on what I'm going to do. And that gives you the opportunity to inject precisely what you're going to do to working class and balance it against middle class persons.
Meanwhile, media personality in Antigua and Barbuda, Darren Matthew Ward, believes Vice President Harris's messaging may not have been compelling enough for the working class.
Donald Trump's message is, hey, I'm going to fix it. You're suffering economically. It's them immigrants. I'm going to go after them. I'm going to round them up and I'm going to toss them back over the border. It may sound absurd. It may sound ridiculous, but it is a message that was simplified. And if there was one area of criticism that I would say is that Kamala's message perhaps was not as cogent, not as simplified as it ought to have been, particularly on the economic front. It needed to be more crisp, more cogent, so that people could absorb, especially the working class who are not college educated.
A genuine icon in the Barbadian culture and arts community for decades. This was Prime Minister Mia Amma Mottley's description of the late Tyrone Trotman as she paid tribute following his passing yesterday. The Prime Minister said while many may refer to him fondly as Tyrone the Dancer, His involvement in giving life and meaning to so many urban youth for what seemed like lifetime made his contribution to the development of this country all the more valuable. Ms. Motley says they worked together on several projects in her constituency and that Mr. Trotman's engagement touched the hearts and lives of residents across that urban corridor and beyond. As a dancer, dance instructor and choreographer and cultural mentor, she says his presence has been felt in the work of such groups as Danse Nationale Afrique, Dancing Africa, Haynesville Community Group, and the St. John Dramatic Society. Time now for Sports Night, and as promised, Damien Best joins us. Damien, good evening.
Yes, good evening to you, Pearson, and welcome back. Good evening to our viewers and listeners, of course. Some football news. Ellerton and Britain's Hill have taken the last two semi-final spots after winning last night's quarter-final matchups of the Prime Minister's Cup semi-professional football tournament at Friendship. CBC's Anne Margaret Boyce reports.
The thrills, the spills, the goals, the saves. All the action from the latest games in the Prime Minister's Cup. Here now are your Flow game highlights. Stay connected at home and on the go with Flow.
First quarter-final match featuring Britain's Hill in red and Notre Dame Soccer Club. 9 minutes in, first cross into the box falls into the path of Rommel Bino. Britain's Hill with the early lead. Midway through the first half, both teams reduced to 10 men. Britain's Hill with a corner kick and Gonzi Reid on the doorstep. Britain's Hill with a 2-goal cushion. Dames on the back foot looking to get back into the contest. Marco sent Hill let's fly, but over the crossbar. Britain's Hill lead 2-0 at the break. Second half action, 6 minutes left. Britain's Hill with another set-piece opportunity. Gerard Maxius rising to the occasion as Britain's Hill cruise into the final four with a 3-0 win over Dames. The main event brought thousands of fans to Friendship. Weymouth Wales in green battling against arch rivals Ellerton. First real chance of the match, Keymore Headley smashes it against the goalpost. Wales missing out, 0-0 the score at the interval. 5 minutes into the second half is where the drama unfolded. Rashad Jules with the initial shot, and this is as clear as crystal. Mario Williams the culprit, Romario Drake's the victim, and referee Cleon Cully points to the spot. Penalty for Ellerton, massive moment in the match. It was left up to Ellerton's captain Shaquille Bell from 12 yards, and just listen to the crowd. Friendship erupts as Ellerton hit the 1-0 lead, and look what it means to them. Wales were desperate to equalise. Romario here went against the upright and out. It was just one of those nights. And perhaps Wales thought they should have gotten a penalty for this, but the referee waved it away, and in the end, it was Ellerton's time to shine. The fat lady was singing. Ellerton marched into the semi-finals. Wales are out. And more Goodrich Boyce, CBC Sports.
Those were your Flow game highlights. A review of the latest action from the Prime Minister's Cup. Stay connected at home and on the go with Flow.
Some cricket news now. Barbados Pride defeated the Windward Islands Volcanoes by 8 runs via the DLS method in the Siege United Super 50 Cup today in Trinidad. Well, England duly won the second T20 International against the West Indies at Kensington Oval. When we reported to you last night, England were 151 for 3 after 14.3 overs, just 8 runs off the target. They went on to record the victory 2 deliveries later without further loss. So scores in that one: Windies 158 for 8, England 161 for 3 from 14.5 overs. Skipper Joss Butler was the player of the match with 83. England have a 2-0 lead with the third T20 set for Thursday in St. Lucia. Well, the 2-1 ODI series victory over England in the Caribbean will be a welcome result as the West Indies seek more rating points in the current ICC cycle. Both the captain and coach are hoping for the success to spill over into the new year. Well, that is my first half in sports. Pearson is back over to you. We've got more action in the second half.
Looking forward to all the action. Thank you, Damien. We'll take a break here. Business Report is next. In the business report tonight, the Caribbean Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors Congress will be held in Barbados next year. The week-long exercise will be convened at the Wyndham Grand Barbados Sam Lords Castle Resort. Officials of the organizing team sat down and discussed the event with Trevor Thorpe.
Congress Director Tony Lowe tells the business report the event is being hosted under the theme Unbelievable, Unmovable, Unstoppable. According to him, this speaks to where the industry has come from and where it is poised to go. Mr. Lowe says much is planned and will be addressed by the over 400 delegates expected, as well as the resource persons.
Barbados is poised to reignite the industry regionally. Let our agents who may have had some post-COVID depression and low sales, and not just sales, but once sales dip in companies, you'll appreciate that things like underwriting, IT components, actuarial assessment, these things have an impact. And therefore, what we're doing is looking at all of these areas to reignite the industry and have people remain confident that the insurance industry is not going anywhere.
He says a number of working sessions and field trips are also on the agenda, in addition to presentations from local, regional, and international intellectuals.
One of the things we're going to be looking at will be to have agents sharpen their skills again. You may be thinking that you know all, but there's always a new idea that someone will bring to you. Technology, for example, you hear a lot about AI, and the argument goes on as to if it is for or against. But we've been using AI, whether we like it or not, for quite some time. How can we improve our sales skill and performance through the use of technology? And then there's always the customer service component.
CARIFA President Hugh Meredith says an induction into the Hall of Fame is another important aspect of the Congress. He believes it will be a fascinating exercise.
The Hall of Fame awards function that will be highlighting one of our members in the Caribbean will be inducted into the Hall of Fame program. We also have, like I said before, some dynamic speakers who will, be on show, and they will bring so much to the membership that will be attending. And we believe that you will leave Barbados rejuvenated and in high spirit to take on the year 2025.
The CARIFA Congress will run from May 11th to the 14th, 2025 at the Wyndham Grand Barbados Sam Lords Castle Resort. Trevor Thorpe for the Business Report.
Let's take a look now at today's trading report.
In Jamaica, Victon Energy Limited, with 5,048,829 units, was the volume leader, followed by Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited and Lasco Manufacturing Limited. In Trinidad and Tobago, Massey Holdings Limited was the volume leader, with 212,180 shares changing hands for a value of Trinidad and Tobago $800,354.69, followed by Grace Kennedy Limited. And here in Barbados, CIBC Caribbean Bank Limited was the sole security, trading 475 shares at Barbados $2.10 each.
Well, net asset values are up at insurance giant Sagicor. The Select Growth Fund returned 14.2% for the financial year ending September the 30th, 2024. The company's senior portfolio manager, Nicholas Nichols, told the business report it was also a successful year for Sagicor Asset Management Incorporated.
This performance was driven by the fund's 77% allocation of financial investments to international securities. Buoyed by investor optimism, major central banks will pivot to a monetary easing policy after economic data confirmed a disinflationary trend. The top contributing sectors to fund performance were technology, materials, and consumer discretionary, while the main detracting sectors were utilities, financials, and communication services. The net asset value per share for 2024 increased to $1.90, up from $1.66 in 2023. So we're advising our mutual fund investors, if you have excess savings, now is an excellent time to convert those savings to investment.
And that's tonight's business report. I thought we had a fabulous start to today's weather. Carrie Ann O'Neill tells us what to expect tomorrow after the break.
The facts say Morning Barbados reaches an audience of over 50,000 and Newsnight reaches over 56,000. It's simple. When you advertise, you're getting your message to over 50,000 of your potential customers. Make the call to CBC Sales Department today and watch your business grow. Contact us at 467-5559 or email marketing@cbc.bb.
Well, for me, the recent change in the weather pattern has been most welcomed. Carrie Ann O'Neill, good to see you again. Good evening.
Well, welcome back, Pearson. Good evening to you and good evening, everyone. Well, that's right, Pearson. This morning, convergence maintained showers here in Barbados. But thereafter, the ridge pattern became the dominant feature and we saw an improvement in weather conditions. Meanwhile, the winds across the region, they are light to moderate. They're peaking at 14 knots. And a shear line maintained wet conditions across the northern islands. The maximum temperature today was 30 degrees Celsius, the minimum 25 degrees. At present, the temperature stands at 27 degrees Celsius. The relative humidity 75%. The winds, they're coming in from the east. We take a look now at some atmospheric conditions across the region, where those temperatures are ranging from 27 to 28 degrees Celsius. The humidity shows moisture is building across a few of the islands, and the winds, well, they are light to moderate across the region. We take a look now at our satellite feed, where convergence maintained some early morning showers for us here in Barbados. We had up to 49 millimeters of rainfall in Christchurch. Meanwhile, a shear line maintained also wet conditions across the northern islands. Those winds are peaking at 14 knots. The seas moderate in open water, with swells peaking at 2.5 meters. Later on tonight, the ridge pattern will continue to dominate. We are expecting a mix of clear and cloudy skies, along with just a few scattered light showers. Further south, afternoon showers and thunderstorms prevailed across the Guianas. Over now in the Western Caribbean, there is a trough system there maintaining wet conditions across Hispaniola. Elsewhere had just a few light showers. Well, that's our first look at the weather. After the break, we'll have the forecast. Welcome back. In the forecast for tomorrow, the sun is expected to rise at 5:55 and will set at 5:29. Now, the first high tide is expected at 23 minutes past midnight and the first low at 6:36 a.m. Now, those seas are moderate in open water with swells peaking at 2.5 meters. The winds coming in from the east, they're peaking at 35 kilometers per hour. For us here in Barbados tonight, the ridge pattern will continue to dominate. We are expecting a mix of clear and cloudy skies along with a few scattered light showers. Over the next 3 days, partly sunny skies along with just a few showers can be expected.
As he promised, more action in sports. Damien.
Thanks so much, Pearson. Well, Burger King Toners and UWI Blackbirds and C.O. Williams Foundation were all in winners' circle when the BVA Senior Men's and Women's League continued. CBC's Anne Margaret Boyce reports.
Women's action first. Deacons in the green taking on UA Blackbirds. This is the closing stage of the first set. Game level at 24. Keen competition on our hands. And this push was too much for Deacons. Yui with the advantage. Yui went on to take the first set here as Deacons had no answer to the serve from Shakira Smiley Hall. Second set, Deacons looking to get back into the match with every opportunity, but not this time though. Hall with the powerful kill. That's mighty. Hall continued her onslaught on the Deacons side. Check this out, another powerful right hand. Deacons had their moments as well. Daniel Evanson. That's brilliant. But in the final analysis, the Blackbirds ran away as winners. 26-24, 25-20, and 19-25. Next match featured Hill Road closer to your screen against Burger King Toners. Third set, Toners leading 22-21, and at this point to the bag. But Toners had the response in Aisha Makeup. This was unstoppable. The Toners, however, were not prepared to continue trailing in the contest, having lost the first set. Kimberly Austin delivers the goods on this occasion. That is outstanding, measured to perfection. Let's look at it one more time. Take a bow, Miss Austin. Toners went on to win 15-25, 25-13, 25-22, and 25-21. But not before this. Austin again down the middle, magnificent. To the men's game, C.O. Williams Foundation in the black and yellow versus Deacons. Nicholas Durant with the spike, that's good. Foundation now again on the serve. Pretty decent rally here, but this spike from Aki Mears was brilliant. Nevertheless, Foundation upset Deacons, and it ended on this note. Dominic Durant with the kill as Foundation won 25-19, 25-17, 22-25, and 17-25. Anmar Goodrich Boys, CBC Sports.
Well, thanks, Anmar. Head coach of the Barbados Tridents football team, Kent Hall, says his side is excited by the prospect of facing off against Ghana for a spot in the CONCACAF Gold Cup prelims. The local boys are looking to keep their winning momentum going when they play regional rivals Ghana Jaguars at the BFA Technical Centre in Wildy on Friday.
We're still very excited by the prospect of facing off against Guyana for a spot in the Gold Cup prelims and building on top of what we've done so far. The recently concluded Nations League matches gave us a platform to test and refine our system, and we're generally happy with the players' understanding and the quality they've shown in implementation. We hope to put on a good show for the home crowd again, but we know this assignment will require a greater level of discipline and application, so we have to shift our mindset accordingly.
Friday's game kicks off at 7 p.m. Well, that's my time for sports tonight, Pearson. It's back over to you.
Thanks for your time, Damien. We'll take a break. We're back in a moment. Well, that's our time tonight. Thank you for spending it with us. I'm Pearson Bowen. For the crew, to all of you, good night. By God's will, we'll see you tomorrow.